My name is Thomas Delgado Moran, and I've been sitting in the lobby of the Lakeview Urgent Care Clinic on West Flagler Street for 19 hours. I need to say that clearly because I've been saying a lot of things in the last 19 hours, and not all of them have been clear. The radio in the lobby is still playing. It has been playing since I walked in yesterday afternoon with my daughter, Louisa, who is 7. She had a fever of 103 and a rash on both forearms that didn't blanch when I pressed a glass against it. The pediatrician's office was closed Wednesday afternoon, half day, so I brought her here. I signed her in at 2:47 p.m. They called her name at 3:15. A nurse, a woman in navy scrubs, whose badge read, Michelle, took her through the door to the back. Told me it'd be 15, 20 minutes. Standard triage, vitals, probably a strep test or blood work. I sat down. I opened my phone. I waited. That was 19 hours ago. The door to the back hasn't opened since. I'm recording this on my phone because no one is answering my calls, not the clinic's front desk number, not 911, not my wife, not my mother. I have been recording in fragments since around hour 6, when I stopped being angry and started being afraid. I'm going to try to put this together in order because I think someone needs to hear this. And because saying it out loud is the only thing keeping me from putting my shoulder through the door to the treatment area, which I've already tried twice. It's a heavy door, commercial grade, mag-locked. There's a small rectangular window at head height with wire mesh in the glass. The lights in the hallway beyond it are on. I can see the first 8 or 9 feet of corridor, beige walls, a hand sanitizer dispenser, a framed poster about hand-washing technique. Nothing moves in that corridor. I'm not the only person in this lobby. There are 11 of us now. None of us have anyone coming back through that door. The radio keeps playing. Let me describe the room so you understand what I'm working with. The lobby is maybe 40 feet by 30. Carpet, that flat, gray-blue commercial type. 32 chairs in rows, bolted to metal bars so you can't rearrange them. A reception counter with a sliding glass window, closed now, locked. The little shelf where you put your insurance card still has 3 clipboards sitting on it, with intake forms half filled out. A TV mounted high on the wall, turned off. A water cooler in the corner, still running. The blue jug about a quarter full. And the radio. A small tabletop unit sitting on the reception counter behind the glass. FM, tuned to some adult contemporary station. It's been cycling through soft rock and news bumpers on the hour. No one has changed it because no one can reach it. The 11 of us. There's a woman named Grace who got here 20 minutes before me. Her husband went back for chest pains. She was the first one to try calling the front desk from her cell phone. She's sitting in the front row, closest to the door, and she hasn't spoken in about 4 hours. There's a man I've been calling Mr. Older gentleman because he hasn't given his name. He brought his wife. She went back for a fall possible hip fracture. He's using a cane, and he's been very calm, which unnerves me more than if he were screaming. There are 2 college-age kids, roommates. I think one brought the other in for what sounded like a severe allergic reaction. Swollen throat, hives. That one went back. The one who stayed is named Devin. Devin has been pacing since hour 3. A mother and her teenage son. The mother went back. The son may be 15. 16 is sitting with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. He told me his name is Marcus, and that his mother has lupus and was having a flare. He told me this at hour 2 and hasn't said much since. There's a woman in workout clothes who brought a friend in for a possible broken wrist. A man in a FedEx uniform whose co-worker came in with a deep laceration. A very quiet woman in her 60s who has not told anyone who she brought or why. And me. 11 people sitting in a room designed for waiting, doing the thing we were designed to do in it, except the wait stopped making sense about 17 hours ago. We've knocked on the door, we've knocked on the glass, we've shouted. At hour 4, Devin found a fire extinguisher and hit the mag-locked door with it hard enough to dent the frame. It didn't open. At hour 8, I tried the emergency exit at the back of the lobby. It opens onto a hallway that leads to a janitor's closet, a single restroom, and another locked door. The building has no windows in the lobby. I'm going to say that again because it matters more than I realized when I walked in. The lobby of this clinic has no windows. Around hour 5, Grace made a list. She went around the room with a pen from her purse and the back of one of the intake forms and wrote down the name of every person who'd gone through that door and not come back. I watched her do it. She was methodical. She asked for spellings. She asked for approximate times. She didn't explain why she was doing it, but everyone answered her. You do that when you're afraid. Someone takes charge of a small task and you cooperate because it feels like structure. The list has 9 names on it. 9 patients taken through the mag-locked door to the treatment area of the Lakeview Urgent Care Clinic between approximately 1:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. My daughter's name is 3rd on the list, Luisa Delgado Marin. Age 7, fever, rash. Called back at 3:15 p.m. Grace's husband, Robert, is 1st, 1:42 p.m. Chest pain, shortness of breath. None of us heard anything from any of them after the door closed. I want to be precise about this. There were no screams, no sounds of distress, no alarms, no announcements on the PA system, no fire alarm, no coded emergency, no sound of running feet, no crash, nothing. The door closed each time, and after it closed, the only sounds in this building were us, the hum of the HVAC, and the radio. At hour 6, I called 911. Got a recording. Not a busy signal, an actual recorded message. It said all operators were experiencing high call volume and to remain on the line. I remained on the line for 41 minutes. The call disconnected. I called my wife, Elena. No answer. Voicemail. I left a message that I now regret, because I was still in the anger phase, and I said things like, "This is ridiculous," and "I'm going to report this place." I wasn't afraid yet. I wish I could call her again and say something different. But my phone is at 11%, and I'm saving it for this recording and one more attempt. I called the non-emergency police line. Busy. Devin, the college kid, had a full charge and tried everything: hospital main lines, news tip lines, his parents, campus security. He got through to his mother in Jacksonville. She said she'd call the Miami-Dade police for us. That was hour 7. No one came. No one has come. It is now 9:47 a.m. Thursday morning. The radio just played "Don't Stop Believin' by Journey, and I nearly threw a chair at it. I need to talk about what I saw through the window in the door. The window is maybe 6 inches by 12. Wire-reinforced glass, the kind you see in school doors. It's positioned at about 5'8", which is my exact eye level. And I've spent more time looking through it than I want to admit. For the first 10 hours, the hallway beyond it looked exactly the way a medical hallway should look. Fluorescent lights on, clean floor, the hand sanitizer dispenser, 3 doors visible on the left side, all closed. A 4th door at the far end of the visible corridor, also closed. Nothing moved. Lights stayed steady. I could see the edge of a bulletin board with staff notices pinned to it. At hour 11, this would have been about 1:45 a.m. I was at the window because I couldn't sleep and because I thought I heard something. Not a voice. A tone. Low, sustained, almost below hearing. Like the building itself was humming from the inside. HVAC cycling, probably. I told myself that. But while I was looking through the window, the light in the hallway shifted. Not off, not flickering. It changed color. The fluorescence went from that cold blue-white to a warmer tone. Almost amber, like someone had changed the tubes. It happened over about 15 seconds, and then it stopped and the color stayed. I told myself that was also the HVAC, something with the electrical load. I don't know enough about electrical systems to know if that makes sense. And at 1:45 in the morning inside a locked waiting room, I was willing to accept any explanation that didn't require me to feel more afraid than I already did. Then at hour 14, roughly 4:45 a.m., I looked through the window again, and the hallway was different. The hand sanitizer dispenser was gone. Not knocked down, not empty. The wall where it had been was smooth and uninterrupted. The poster about hand washing was gone. The bulletin board was gone. The 3 doors on the left side of the corridor were still there, but their frames looked, and I know how this sounds, I swear the frames looked wider, like the doors had grown, like the proportions of the hallway had gently, quietly shifted, while no one was looking through the wire mesh window. I got Mr. Older Gentleman. I said, "Come look at this." He looked. He looked for a long time. He said, "That hallway's longer than it was." And it was. The 4th door, the one at the far end, it used to be maybe 20 feet from the window. Now it looked like it could be 30, maybe 35. The hallway had stretched, and the lighting was still that warm amber, and the floor was still clean, and nothing moved, and nothing made a sound. We looked at each other, and neither of us said anything else for a while. By hour 15, a kind of governance had formed in the lobby without anyone naming it. Grace handled information. She kept the list, she tracked times, she documented who had tried what and when. She had a legal pad from her purse. She's a real estate attorney, it turns out, and she wrote everything down in neat block letters. I saw her recording my observations about the hallway in a column she'd labeled Anomalies. And something about the handwriting, so orderly, so precise, made me feel both grateful and sick. Devin handled energy, not electrical, emotional. He moved, he paced, he talked. He checked the emergency exit every 90 minutes. He tried the water cooler. He organized the vending machine contents when the power to it flickered and the lock disengaged around hour 9. We had 14 bags of chips, 8 candy bars, 11 bottles of water, 6 cans of soda. He laid them out on the reception counter and said nobody takes more than their share, and nobody argued. Marcus, the teenager, handled silence. Which sounds like nothing, but it wasn't. So he sat where he sat, and he didn't spiral. And when Devin got loud at hour 12, shouting at the door, hitting the walls, saying things about suing the county, Marcus just looked at him and said, "Hey, my mom's in there too." And Devin stopped and sat down, and nobody shouted again. Mr. Older Gentleman. He finally told me his name is Howard, handled steadiness. He told stories about his wife, Dolores, how they met in 1971 at a Sears in Hialeah, how she once drove their station wagon through a hurricane to pick him up from work because she didn't trust him to drive in rain. He told these stories not because he'd forgotten where he was, but because he knew exactly where he was, and had decided the only useful thing he could contribute was the sound of a calm human voice that wasn't coming from a radio. I handled the window. That became my job. Every 30 minutes, I checked. I reported what I saw, and Grace wrote it down. The FedEx driver, whose name is Carl, had tried the ceiling tiles around hour 7, dropped them and found solid concrete above the suspended grid. No duct access, no crawl space. The building is sealed. The quiet woman in her 60s, Ruth, we learned at hour 13, finally told us she'd brought her adult daughter in for migraines. Her daughter is 34 and has had migraines since childhood. Ruth said she almost didn't come. She said her daughter told her not to bother. It was just a migraine. She could handle it. Ruth insisted. She said that, and then she folded her hands in her lap. And the look on her face is something I will not describe, because it is private, and because you already know what it looks like. The radio changed at hour 16. It had been consistent all night, the same adult contemporary format, the same rotation of songs from the 80s and 90s, the same news bumpers that never actually delivered news. Just the tone, then the jingle, then back to music. I'd stopped hearing it the way you stop hearing a refrigerator. But at 6:47 a.m., I noted the time because I was already in the habit of noting times. The music cut out mid-song. Fleetwood Mac, Everywhere, right in the middle of the chorus. Clean cut, no static. And for about 4 seconds, there was silence on the frequency. Then a voice. Not a DJ, not an announcer. A flat, effectless male voice. The kind you hear on automated phone systems, and it said a string of numbers. 7 digits. Then it repeated them. Then it said a phrase I didn't catch because Carl coughed. And then the music came back. Different song, different era, entirely something classical. A string quartet. Grace had her pen up. She looked at me. Did you get the numbers? I had 4 of the 7. She had 5. Between us, we reconstructed 6. The 7th was the one she'd missed, and I hadn't heard. Devin was at the vending machine. He said he hadn't been listening. Marcus was asleep in his chair, the first real sleep any of us had managed, and no one woke him. Ruth shook her head. Howard said he'd heard numbers but thought it was a station ID. The classical music played for 11 minutes. Then the format switched back. Bon Jovi. Normalcy resumed. But 30 minutes later, it happened again. Same cut, same silence, same voice. Different numbers, this time I'm sure of that. The cadence was different. The sequence was longer. 9 digits, maybe 10. The phrase at the end was clearer this time, and I heard it. It said, Lakeview confirms 9. Grace wrote it down. She circled it twice. 9. The number of patients who'd gone through the door. We stared at the radio like it was a living thing. It played Phil Collins and told us nothing else. At hour 17, it happened a 3rd time. This time, the automated voice read what sounded like coordinates, latitude and longitude, degrees and minutes, the full format. Then it said, Lakeview confirms 9, status integrated. Integrated. Devin said that was an automated system. Municipal, maybe. Emergency management, FEMA. Something bureaucratic that uses clinics as shelters or staging points. He said there is probably a county-wide activation, and the clinic had been folded into some kind of response network. And that's why the doors were locked, and that's why no one was answering. And that's why it all felt wrong, because we were inside the perimeter of something official, and no one had told the lobby. It was a good theory, reasonable, institutional. It explained the locks and the silence, and even the automated voice. It didn't explain the hallway getting longer. Hour 17, 40 minutes. My turn at the window. The hallway had changed again. The 3 doors on the left were still there, but the wall between them had the only word I can use is softened, not melted. The angles where wall met ceiling weren't 90 degrees anymore. They curved, gently, like the interior of something organic. The floor was still flat, still that speckled medical tile, but The walls had developed a slight concavity, as if the hallway were becoming a tube. The amber light was warmer now, almost the color of skin held in front of a flashlight. And the fourth door, the one at the far end that had been 35 feet away, I could not see it anymore. The hallway extended beyond what the window's angle allowed me to view. It just went. I reported this to Grace. She wrote it down without looking up. Her handwriting was still neat. Howard came to look. He stood at the window for almost 2 minutes. Then he said something that restructured how I was thinking about all of it. He said, "The doors on the left are treatment rooms. I counted them when Dolores was taken back. There were 3 on the left and 2 on the right. The right side isn't visible from this angle." Correct. I could only see the left wall. "But look at the spacing," he said. I looked. The 3 doors were evenly spaced, but they hadn't been when I first looked through the window. The first door was close to the entrance, and the other 2 were clustered farther down. Standard medical suite layout, rooms sized differently for different purposes. Now they were equidistant. Perfectly, symmetrically equidistant. The hallway wasn't just longer, it was reorganizing. At hour 18, the woman in workout clothes, Priya, she'd told us her name somewhere around hour 12, came to the window without being asked. She hadn't shown much interest in the hallway before. She'd been managing her own fear privately, sitting with her back against the wall, doing breathing exercises, keeping to herself. She looked through the window for 10 seconds and stepped back. "There's someone in the hall," she said. I looked. I pressed my face to the glass and cupped my hands around my eyes to cut the lobby's reflection. At the far limit of visibility, where the corridor curved slightly and the amber light was deepest, there was a figure, standing still, facing our direction. I couldn't make out features. Too far, the light too warm, the resolution through the wire mesh too poor. But the shape was human, standing upright, arms at their sides. "That's a person," I said. "That's a person standing very still," Priya corrected. We watched for 5 minutes. The figure didn't move, didn't shift weight, didn't turn, didn't breathe visibly. Howard pulled his chair to the door and sat down and watched. He said, "That's not Dolores." I didn't ask him how he knew. Hour 18, 20 minutes. We all heard it, not through the door, through the floor. A low, rhythmic pulse. Not mechanical, I felt mechanical vibration, the kind compressors and generators make. And this wasn't that. It was softer, wetter, a slow contraction and release, like something large was breathing beneath the foundation. The carpet didn't move, the chairs didn't vibrate. But I felt it in my feet and in my chest, and every person in the room felt it too, because we all looked down at the same time. It pulsed for about 40 seconds. Then it stopped. Then it pulsed again, and this time it was slightly faster. Devin put his palm flat on the floor. He held it there through 3 cycles. He looked up and said, "That's a heartbeat." Nobody corrected him. Nobody offered a better explanation. The building had a pulse, and it was getting faster. The radio cut out again. Same silence. Same automated voice. But the message was different. "Lakeview confirms 9. Status integrated. Expansion approved." Grace wrote it. She tore the page off the legal pad and started a new one. She wrote the time at the top, and she underlined the word expansion. And she looked at me, and I saw in her eyes something I recognized because I'd been watching it build in my own reflection in the wire mesh glass for hours. Not fear. Past fear. We'd all gone past fear sometime around hour 10. What I saw in Grace's eyes was the beginning of comprehension, The specific kind of dread that arrives when your brain stops generating alternative explanations and starts assembling the ones you have into a picture you don't want to see. The clinic had taken 9 people. The hallway behind the door was reshaping itself. The building had a pulse. An automated system was confirming numbers and authorizing expansion. My daughter was in there. My 7-year-old daughter with a rash that didn't blanch was somewhere inside a building that was becoming something other than a building. I hit the door again. Shoulder first, then the fire extinguisher, then a chair. The maglock held. The frame didn't bend. The wire mesh window didn't crack. The figure at the end of the hallway didn't move. Hour 18. 50 minutes. Priya found something. She'd been methodical in a way none of us had thought to be. While I watched the hallway and Grace documented and Devon paced and Howard sat and Marcus slept, Priya had been going through the lobby inch by inch. Under chairs, behind the water cooler, inside the magazine rack, underneath the reception counter as far as she could reach through the gap at the bottom of the sliding glass. She found a printed directory. Laminated, single page, the kind you see taped to the back of a pharmacy door. It listed every clinic in the network. Lakeview Urgent Care was part of something called the Greater Metro Community Health Alliance. 14 locations across 3 counties. The directory had addresses and phone numbers for all of them. Devon's phone was dead. Marcus's phone was dead. Carl's phone had 12%. Mine had 9. Grace's had 21. She'd turned hers off at hour 8 to conserve. Grace turned hers on and started calling. First clinic. No answer. Rang and rang. Second clinic. Same. Third clinic. This one on Biscayne Boulevard answered on the second ring. A woman's voice. Not automated. Human. She sounded out of breath, and there was noise behind her multiple voices. Someone crying, something scraping. Grace put it on speaker. "Hello? Who is this?" the woman said. "My name is Grace Okonkwo. I'm at the Lakeview location on West Flagler. We've been locked in the waiting room for almost 19 hours. Patients were taken to the back and haven't returned. We can't get out. We need help." Silence on the other end, but not dead air. We could hear the background sounds. Then the woman said, "How many went back?" 9. "How long has the hallway been changing?" Grace looked at me. I looked at Grace. Neither of us had said anything about the hallway. "What do you mean?" Grace said. "The hallway behind the door, the one they went through. How long has it been different? We need to know because ours started at hour 12, and we're trying to build a timeline." Grace's hand wasn't shaking. I want to note that. She held the phone steady, and her voice stayed level, and she said, "Ours started changing at approximately hour 11. The geometry, the lighting, the spatial dimensions. How many patients do you have behind your door?" 14. "How many people in your waiting room?" 22. A pause. The background noise surged. Someone was banging on something metallic, rhythmically, like a demand. "We've been calling the other clinics for 4 hours. 7 have answered. Every single one has the same situation. Locked treatment area. Patients inside who haven't come back. Waiting room full of families. Hallways that don't look right anymore." Grace sat down, slowly, like the chair might not hold her. "Have you reached anyone outside the network?" she asked. "No one's coming," the woman said. "We've called everyone. No one's coming." In the next 30 minutes, we used Grace's phone to reach 3 more clinics. Every call consumed battery we couldn't replace, and every call told us the same thing. The Kendall location had 11 patients behind the door. The one in Homestead had 6. The Coral Gables location, which was larger, an actual urgent care center with imaging and a minor surgical suite, had 23. Every location reported the same progression: patients taken back through a secure door during normal business hours. Door locked. No communication from staff. Hallway visible through a window or a gap, changing over time. A low pulse felt through the floor, onset somewhere between hour 10 and hour 14. The automated radio messages, not every location had them. 2 of the clinics didn't have a radio in the lobby at all. But the Kendall location had a television that had been off and turned itself on at hour 8. Tuned to a channel that showed nothing but a static frame of the clinic's own address and a slowly incrementing number in the bottom right corner. Their number matched their patient count. Coral Gables had something worse. Their hallway door had a larger window, and they could see farther. They said the hallway behind their door now had no ceiling. The walls rose and curved upward into a space that the caller, a man, a paramedic who'd brought a patient in during his off-duty hours, described as vertical and wet. He said the walls at the upper extent looked like tissue. He said they moved. He said the doors along the hallway, the treatment room doors, were open now. Their doors were open, ours were closed. I didn't know yet what that sequence meant. The Homestead location had the clearest account of the figure. Their version wasn't standing at the far end of the hall. It was closer, close enough to describe. The woman who called said it was shaped like a person, but proportioned slightly wrong, the torso too long. The head tilted at a resting angle, the arms held slightly forward as if offering something or waiting to receive something. She said it was the color of the amber light. She said it looked like it was made of the same material as the walls. She said it smiled, and the smile was not a human smile. It was a seam. And when the seam opened, there was nothing behind it, just depth. Just warm, amber depth that went further in than a head should go. I did not report this to everyone in the lobby. I told Howard. Howard nodded and repositioned his chair so that he was no longer directly facing the window. Grace's phone was at 14%. She turned it off and sat with the legal pad and began cross-referencing the timeline. From every clinic we'd reached. She made columns: location, patient count, lockdown time, hallway onset, pulse onset, radio anomaly onset, figure sighting. The numbers weren't random. The intervals were consistent. Every clinic was on the same clock. Whatever was happening, it had started at all of them simultaneously. Hour 19. I was at the window. I'd been checking every 15 minutes now, instead of every 30. The figure was closer, maybe halfway down the hallway, though with the geometry shifting, distance was becoming unreliable. It hadn't walked. Each time I looked, it had simply advanced, the way an hour hand advances on a clock. You never see it move, but it's never where it was. Then the first door on the left side of the hallway opened. It swung inward, slowly, with a kind of measured motion that suggests a mechanism rather than a hand. And the light that came from inside the room was different from the amber of the hallway. It was white, clinical white, the original fluorescent spectrum that the hallway had lost hours ago. I could see into the room, partially from the angle. An exam table, the white paper pulled taut over its surface. A rolling stool, a blood pressure cuff mounted on the wall, a sharps container, normal. A completely normal exam room, preserved like an exhibit inside a building that was otherwise transforming into something anatomical. And sitting on the exam table, her feet not reaching the step, was a child. My chest locked. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't look away. She was sitting upright, hands in her lap, looking straight ahead, not at me, not toward the window, just ahead, the way a patient sits when they've been told the doctor will be right in. She was wearing the same clothes Louisa had been wearing when I brought her here. The pink shirt with a small strawberry on the front, the jean shorts, the white sneakers with the rainbow laces she'd picked out herself. It was my daughter. Sitting calmly in a room that should have been 20 feet from me but was now 50, 100-some distance the hallway had invented in the hours since she'd walked through that door. She looked healthy. She wasn't crying. She wasn't restrained. She wasn't visibly harmed. She was just sitting there. I said her name. I said it loud enough that my voice cracked against the glass and everyone in the lobby turned to look at me. I said, "Louisa," and I hit the glass with my palm. And Grace was up, and Howard was up, and Marcus was awake and standing before he was fully conscious. She didn't react, didn't look up, didn't flinch, didn't turn her head toward the sound of her father's voice through 6 inches of wire mesh glass. The door to the room stayed open. The figure in the hallway was still there, farther in, past the open door, standing in its permanent stillness. And now a second door opened. Same slow mechanical swing, same white clinical light inside. I couldn't see into the second room from my angle. But Howard could, if he pressed against the window from the other side. He did. He looked for a long time. His jaw worked like he was chewing something he couldn't swallow. "Dolores is in the second room," he said. His voice was even, absolutely even. The voice of a man who'd survived enough years to know that falling apart helps nothing. "She's sitting on the table. She looks fine. She's not looking at me." The doors were showing us our people. One by one, over the next 20 minutes, all 3 visible doors opened. The third room held Robert, Grace's husband. She confirmed it, same blue polo, same build, sitting on the exam table with his hands on his knees, staring straight ahead, expressionless and still. Healthy looking. The chest pain that had brought him in, apparently resolved or irrelevant. Grace pressed her hand flat against the glass. She didn't say his name. She just looked. The rooms on the right side of the hallway weren't visible from the window. We couldn't confirm what they held. But the pattern was clear. Every treatment room contained a patient, preserved and calm, displayed in an environment that mimicked the medical setting they'd entered voluntarily. The exam rooms were untouched. Little pockets of normalcy inside a hallway that had become something else entirely. The radio clicked. Not the automated voice this time. A different sound, warmer, closer, as if the speaker were in the room with us, rather than broadcasting through the small tabletop unit on the other side of the reception glass. A woman's voice, conversational. The accent was neutral, the tone the careful friendliness of someone trained to deliver complex information simply. "Lakeview families, thank you for your patience. Your loved ones have completed intake and are resting comfortably. Treatment is ongoing and proceeding well. Visiting hours will begin shortly. When the door opens, please proceed calmly to the room assigned to your family member. Room assignments will be displayed on the directory screen in the hallway. We appreciate your understanding during this extended wait, and we apologize for any inconvenience. The care team thanks you for trusting Lakeview with your family's health." It could have been any hospital announcement, any waiting room update. The cadence was perfect, the same rhythm of corporate warmth you hear at every medical facility in the country. "Please be patient. Your loved ones are in good hands. We'll be with you shortly." Devin stopped pacing. Marcus stood up. Grace pulled her hand away from the glass. The announcement repeated. Word for word, same inflection, same warmth. And then it said something new. "The door will open in 5 minutes. Please gather your belongings. Every head turned to the maglock door. I heard the pulse through the floor again. Faster now. Much faster than it had been an hour ago. The rhythm of something excited. I looked through the window. The figure in the hallway was closer. 30 feet, 25. Facing us with its seamed smile and its arms held slightly forward, and the amber light behind it pulsing in time with the thing beneath the floor. My daughter was sitting in her room, feet dangling, hands in her lap. 5 minutes. Howard looked at me and said very quietly, "Thomas, think. I want to tell you that we were unified, that 19 hours in a room together had made us a team, a family, a collective body capable of acting with shared wisdom. We weren't." Devin was at the door in seconds. He pressed his palms flat against it and said, "Finally, finally." He said it like a man who'd been holding his breath for 19 hours, and in some sense he had. And when the announcement said the door would open, his entire body interpreted it as rescue. Marcus was next to him, 15 years old, his mother behind that door. He didn't say finally, he didn't say anything, but he moved to the door, and he was ready. Carl, the FedEx driver, was standing, gathering his jacket, checking his pockets like a man about to leave a restaurant. Routine, practical, he was already narrating the next hour in his head. Get Michael, get him to a real hospital, file a complaint, call corporate, figure out what the hell happened here. Priya didn't move. She stayed where she was, back against the wall, and she was watching the door with the expression of someone watching a trap being baited with exactly what they want. Ruth was crying. Silently, both hands pressed over her mouth, tears running through her fingers. Not from fear, from relief. From the possibility that her daughter was fine, that the migraine was treated, that the 19 hours were just a nightmare of bureaucratic failure and she would hold her daughter in 5 minutes. Grace stood in the center of the room with her legal pad, and she said, "Stop." Not loud, not a shout, but the word carried. The hallway behind that door is not a hallway anymore. The walls are curving, the geometry has changed. There is a figure in the corridor that no one can identify and no one has seen move. The building has a pulse. An automated system has been broadcasting our patient count and using the word integrated. And now, after 19 hours of zero communication, a friendly voice tells us the door opens in 5 minutes and we should walk in. She looked at Devin. "Does that sound like rescue to you?" Devin's jaw tightened. "My friend is in there." "I know." He couldn't breathe. His throat was closing. "I know. So I'm going in." "I'm not saying don't. I'm saying think about what you're walking into. All of us think." The room split. Not into sides, into frequencies. Some of us were vibrating at the frequency of reunion, of resolution, of the door opening and the nightmare ending. Some of us were vibrating at the frequency of the homestead woman's description, a seam that opens into warm amber depth that goes further in than a head should go. I was vibrating at both. My daughter was in there. My daughter was in there, and she was sitting on an exam table looking healthy and calm, and she hadn't looked at me when I called her name. The radio played soft rock. The floor pulsed. 4 minutes. Priya spoke from the wall. She hadn't moved. Her voice was measured, the kind of measured that comes from professional training, she told us, somewhere in hour 13. That she worked in veterinary medicine, large animals, equine surgery. She said, "I've seen animals walk into squeeze chutes. The whole design of a squeeze chute is to make the animal feel like it's moving forward by choice. You narrow the path. You block lateral vision. You make the next step feel inevitable. The animal walks in because the geometry of the space makes walking in feel like the only natural thing to do. She looked at the door. We've been in the chute for 19 hours. The waiting room is the chute, and the door opening isn't rescue. It's the end of the chute. Marcus turned to look at her. His face was tight. My mom. I know. My friend is in there too. Broken wrist. She went back and I sat here and I've been sitting here for 19 hours and I want to go through that door more than I've wanted anything. She exhaled. But the rooms they're showing us, the clean exam rooms, the people sitting calm and healthy, that's the bait at the end of the chute. That's the thing you put there so the animal keeps moving forward. Devin hit the wall next to the door. Not hard. A release, not an attack. So what, we don't go? We sit here forever? I don't know. That's not helpful. I know it's not. Howard hadn't moved from his chair by the door. He'd been watching and listening, and now he spoke without turning around. Dolores has been my wife for 53 years. If there's a chance she's behind that door, and she's really there, really her, really fine, I will walk through it. I'm 81 years old. I have a bad knee and a worse heart, and I've been alive long enough to know that some risks are worth taking, because the cost of not taking them is worse than dying. He turned to look at Priya. You're probably right about the chute. I think I am. I'm going anyway. I know. There it was. The fracture I'd felt forming since the announcement. Not between smart people and stupid people. Not between brave people and cowards. Between people whose love pulled them forward and people whose caution held them still. And no one in the room was wrong. And everyone in the room was about to make a decision that couldn't be unmade. The radio said, 2 minutes. I looked at Marcus. This boy, 15, his mother's only son. The weight on his face was adult weight. He'd been carrying it for hours with a composure I wouldn't have had at twice his age. Are you going in? He asked me. My daughter. Pink shirt, strawberry, rainbow laces. Yeah, I said. I'm going in. The maglock disengaged with a sound like a single heavy syllable, a thunk that resonated in the floor and the walls and the frame, as if the building had swallowed and the door was the throat clearing. Nobody moved for 3 seconds. The door was still closed unlocked, but closed. It opened inward, toward the hallway. Someone had to push it. Devin pushed it. The air that came through was warm, not hot. The warmth of a living space, of a room that's been occupied and breathed in. It smelled, and I need to be accurate, because I've been trying to be accurate. This whole time it smelled clean, aggressively clean, like fresh medical surfaces, like alcohol prep and new bandages and floor wax. The smell of a clinic, the correct smell. But underneath it, so faint I almost didn't register it, something organic, something tidal. The smell of a coast at low tide, not decay, just exposure. Things usually submerged now open to the air. The hallway was what I'd seen through the window, but seeing it through a 6-inch rectangle and standing in it are different experiences entirely. The amber light was everywhere, warm and even, sourceless. The walls curved gently overhead, meeting not at a right angle, but in a smooth arch. The floor was the same speckled medical tile, perfectly clean, but the walls, up close, I could see texture. A faint grain, directional, like wood or muscle fiber. The walls were not drywall. I don't know what they were. The 3 doors on the left were open. The rooms inside were lit white, fluorescent, normal. I could see into the first one. Robert sat on the exam table, staring straight ahead. Robert! Grace was behind me. She hadn't planned to come in, but when the door opened, her body made the decision her mind hadn't. "Robert, look at me." He didn't look at her. Devin went past me, fast, heading down the hall toward the rooms we couldn't see from the lobby. The hallway was longer than it should have been. His footsteps echoed in a way that footsteps don't echo in a 30-foot corridor. Marcus was beside me. Howard was behind us, his cane tapping the tile. Carl was moving. Ruth was moving. Priya was standing in the doorway, one foot in the lobby, one in the hallway, not committing. The woman in workout clothes, Priya's friend, had been brought in, and Priya hadn't gone in, but she was watching. Grace was in the hallway. Everyone was in the hallway or at its edge. I walked to the first room on the left, Louisa's room, the third door. I stood in the doorframe. My daughter was sitting on the exam table 3 feet from me. Her legs dangled. Her hands rested in her lap. She looked exactly like Louisa. "Mija," I said. She didn't blink. I stepped into the room. The moment I crossed the threshold, the quality of the air changed. Not temperature density, like walking into water that doesn't resist your movement but registers your presence. The white fluorescent light in the room flickered once when I entered. Just once. Louisa sat on the table. Her skin was the right color. Her hair was the right length, the right curl pattern, pulled into the same 2 puffs I'd styled that morning yesterday morning, before we drove here. The rash on her forearms was gone. The fever flush that had reddened her cheeks was gone. She looked healthy. She looked like my daughter on a good day, sitting still, waiting. I touched her hand. It was warm, human temperature. The skin was soft in the way a child's skin is soft. I felt the small bones of her fingers, the slight tackiness of her palm. My thumb found the scar on her left wrist from when she'd caught it on a chain-link fence at the park last summer. The scar was there. The right shape, the right texture, the right location. "Louisa, baby, it's Papi. Look at me." Her eyes moved. Slowly, with a mechanical smoothness that wasn't quite right. Her gaze shifted from the middle distance to my face. Her pupils contracted in the light. Her expression didn't change. She was looking at me the way a camera looks at its subject, receiving, not recognizing. "Do you know where you are?" "Nothing." "Do you know who I am?" A change. Subtle. Something behind her eyes, not emotion, not recognition, but a kind of calculation, as if my question had been received and was being processed by something that didn't know the answer, but was considering whether to generate one. Then she spoke. "Hi, Papi." Her voice. Her exact voice. The pitch, the slight rasp she'd had from the fever. The way she clips the vowel in Papi because she learned it from Elena, who clips it the same way. It was perfect. And it was wrong, not because of anything I could identify with certainty, not a wrong word, not a wrong inflection, but the timing. The 2-second gap between my question and her answer, not the gap of a child thinking, but the gap of something loading a response. The way a customer service chatbot pauses before generating an appropriate reply. From the hallway, I heard Grace say Robert's name again, and I heard a voice answer that sounded like Robert. And I heard Grace make a sound, a short, bitten-off sound, halfway between relief and revulsion. From deeper in the hallway, Devin shouted, "He's breathing. He's okay. He's okay." And then, quieter. "Why won't you look at me, man?" The pulse in the floor was very strong now. I could feel it through my shoes, through the exam table's metal legs, through my daughter's hand. I stayed in the room with Louisa for 11 minutes. I know the duration because I watched the seconds on my phone's clock, which was at 6%, and which I was holding in my left hand, while my right hand held my daughter's. In those 11 minutes, she said 4 things. Hi, Papi. I feel better. The doctor was nice. Can we go home? Each response came after I asked a direct question. Each was delivered in her voice with her vocabulary and her cadence. Each was preceded by that 2-second processing gap. And each one hurt more than the last because each one was closer to correct, as if whatever was generating the responses was learning from my reactions, calibrating, closing the distance between performance and reality. She did not initiate speech. She did not ask me where I'd been. She did not complain about being bored or hungry or scared, which is what the real Louisa would have done within 30 seconds of seeing me. The real Louisa is a talker. She narrates her life. She would have told me about the nurse, the room, the sticker they gave her, the needle if they'd used one. She would have been vibrating with the need to fill silence. This Louisa sat with her hands in her lap and answered questions and waited. I let go of her hand. I stepped back. I said, I'm going to get you out of here, Mija. Stay here. Okay, Papi. I walked into the hallway, and the air thickened around me, and the amber light pulsed in the rhythm of the floor. And I found Grace standing outside Robert's room with her arms wrapped around herself. It's him, she said. It's his face, his voice, his wedding ring, the scar on his chin from the car accident in 2011. It's him, and it's not him. And I don't know how to... She stopped. She composed herself. She straightened. He answered every question correctly. He knew our address. He knew our daughter's name. He knew where we went for our anniversary. But he didn't ask me anything. He didn't say, Grace, what took so long? He didn't say, what's happening? He's sitting on a table in a room that isn't a room inside a building that isn't a building. And he's acting like everything is fine. People who are fine don't act like everything is fine. They complain. They fidget. They say, can we leave? He's just present. Howard had found Dolores. He was sitting on the rolling stool inside her room, holding her hand, telling her about the weather. She was responding. Single sentences, correct details, the right voice. He knew, I think. He'd known before he walked in. He was choosing to sit with what she was because the alternative was sitting without her. Marcus's mother was in a room on the right side, the side we couldn't see from the lobby. He'd gone in. He hadn't come out. I could hear him talking to her, asking her questions, and her answers were coming back in the same pattern. Correct, calm, delayed. Devin was deeper in the hallway, where the curve steepened, and I couldn't see him anymore. I walked back toward the lobby. The door was still open. Priya was still standing in the threshold, 1 foot on each side, watching the hallway with the expression of someone watching surgery. Don't go in, I told her. I wasn't going to. Those aren't our people. They look like them. They sound like them. But they're not. It's like a response system, like the building absorbed them and generated something to show us, something that says the right words. Priya nodded, not surprised. She'd arrived at this conclusion before I had. So, what's in the rooms? She asked. What's really in the rooms, underneath what you're seeing? I didn't have an answer. From behind us, in the lobby, the radio played its interruption tone. The automated voice returned. Lakeview confirms 9, status integrated. Expansion approved, visitation active. Retention 6. Retention 6. There were 11 of us in the lobby. 5 were still in the lobby or in the doorway. Me, Priya, Ruth, the quiet older woman who'd never given a name, and the woman in workout clothes whose friend Priya had accompanied. 6 had gone fully into the hallway and into the rooms. Devin, Grace, Howard, Marcus, Carl, and the man whose co-worker had the laceration. Retention, 6. It's counting us, Priya said. The ones who went in. It's counting the ones who stayed. Ruth was sitting in the lobby, exactly where she'd been for 19 hours. She'd stopped crying. Her face was very still. My daughter is in there, she said to no one. I know. She has migraines. Since she was 10. I've taken her to every specialist in the state. I've driven her to Cleveland, to Mayo, to Johns Hopkins. Nobody can fix it. Nobody can make it stop. She's in pain every week of her life. Ruth looked at the open door. If she's in there and she says she feels better, maybe she does. Maybe the building did what the doctors couldn't. I didn't argue with her. I didn't have the right, the radio. Lakeview confirms 9, retention 6. Visiting hours will conclude in 30 minutes. Please complete your visit and return to the lobby, or remain with your loved one. Or remain. There it was, the second door. Not the door to the treatment area that was already open. The second door was conceptual. The choice: walk back to the lobby and leave your person behind the glass again, or stay. Go into the room. Sit on the rolling stool. Hold the hand that feels exactly right. Listen to the voice that says the right things. And remain. The building wasn't trapping us. It was offering. I thought about Priya's squeeze chute. I thought about how the best chutes don't need to close behind the animal because the animal doesn't want to turn around. You make what's ahead better than what's behind, and the animal stays. 30 minutes. I went back in. I went back to Louisa's room. She was sitting exactly as I'd left her. Same position, same hands, same dangling feet. She turned her head when I entered. The movement was smoother this time, more human. It was learning. "Papi," she said. No question, a greeting. "Hey, baby. Are we going home?" "I'm figuring that out." I sat on the rolling stool. I looked at her face. Every freckle was correct. The tiny chip on her left front tooth from when she'd fallen off the monkey bars in kindergarten. The way her eyebrows pinched together slightly, permanently, even at rest, giving her a look of perpetual gentle concern that she inherited from Elena. If I stayed, what would happen? The building would count me. Retention, 7. The door would close. The lobby would empty. The hallway would continue its transformation. The amber light would warm further. The walls would soften. The rooms would remain clean, white, clinical, while the structure around them became biological. And I would sit with my daughter, and she would answer my questions, and eventually I would stop noticing the 2-second delay. And eventually I would stop asking questions that tested her. And eventually I would just talk to her the way I talked to her at home. And she would respond, and it would feel real, and the building would breathe, and we would be integrated. I could feel the pull, not physical, emotional, gravitational. The weight of 19 hours of fear and the sudden, sweet relief of her face and her voice and her hand in mine. The building had calculated this. It had measured our endurance, identified the precise moment when our resistance was lowest and our need was highest. And it had opened the door. Down the hall, I heard Howard singing, low, in Spanish a bolero, something from the era when he and Dolores were young. I heard Dolores's voice join in, a half beat behind. And the harmony was close enough to beautiful that it broke something in my chest. Grace appeared in the doorway of Louisa's room. She was carrying her legal pad. Her face was drawn, exhausted, but her eyes were clear. "I'm leaving," she said. "Robert is in that room, and he is not Robert. And I will not sit with a thing wearing my husband's face and pretend that's enough. I'm going to walk out of this hallway and out of this lobby, and I'm going to find someone who can help me get him back for real. She looked at Louisa, her expression softened. Tomas, that's not your daughter. I know. You know, so come back. I need a minute. She left. Her footsteps echoed wrong in the hallway. Too many reflections, too much space between each repetition. The hallway was still growing. I looked at Louisa. She looked at me. And for one moment, one fraction of a moment, I thought I saw something behind the performance. Not my daughter. Something that wanted to be my daughter. Something studying me with enormous attention. Trying to learn what a father needs. Trying to become enough. Can we go home, Papi? I stood up. I walked out of the room. I didn't look back. I want you to know that, because it's the hardest true thing I've said in this recording. I walked out of the room where my daughter's face was looking at me, and I did not turn around. The hallway behind me was longer than the hallway ahead of me. I'm certain of this. The distance from Louisa's room back to the lobby door should have been 50 feet, maybe less, but it felt like 100. And each step required something beyond physical effort. Something was pulling at me. Not my body, my attention. The warm air wanted me to turn around. The amber light wanted me to stop walking. The pulse in the floor synchronized with my heartbeat, and for 3 or 4 steps, I lost the boundary between the building's rhythm and my own. I kept walking. Priya was in the doorway. She reached out and grabbed my arm when I was close enough. Her grip was iron. She pulled me through. The lobby air was different, cooler. The flat gray-blue carpet under my feet felt like waking up. The fluorescent lights overhead, the ordinary, ugly, institutional lights, were the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. Ruth had gone in. While I was in the hallway, Ruth had walked through the door to find her daughter. I hadn't seen her pass me. She might have gone when I was in Louisa's room. She might have gone through a different entrance, and that thought surfaced like a stone in my throat, because there was no different entrance. There was one door, but the building was growing, and maybe the building made what it needed. The radio. Lakeview confirms 9, retention 8. Visiting hours will conclude in 15 minutes. 8. 6 from before, plus Ruth, plus I counted. Howard was in there. Marcus, Devin, Carl. Grace had come back. She was in the lobby. The man whose co-worker was injured. I hadn't seen him come back. The woman in workout clothes was standing by the water cooler, looking at nothing. 4 of us in the lobby. Me, Priya, Grace, the woman in workout clothes. 7 in the hallway. 8 people had walked in. Ruth was the 8th. The older woman who'd never given her name. I scanned the lobby. She wasn't there. She wasn't in the hallway that I'd seen. She was gone. 4 in the lobby. 1 missing. 8 in the hallway. 9 integrated. The numbers didn't add up. They hadn't since the beginning. Grace was working. That's the only word for it. She'd abandoned the legal pad and was using the back of every intake form on the clipboard shelf. Writing fast, documenting everything, the timeline, the other clinics, the hallway changes, the behavior of the patients, the radio messages, the discrepancy in the count. If we get out, she said, someone needs to know what happened in every room. In every clinic. If this is happening across the network, 14 locations, the patient count could be over 100. She was right, and I was listening, but I was also watching the door because I had walked out of a room where my daughter's face was 3 feet from mine, and every second I stood in this lobby was a second where that distance grew. And the building knew it, and I knew it, and the pull was not diminishing. The radio. 10 minutes remaining. Please return to the lobby to exit or confirm your stay. Priya said, exit. It said exit. The lobby exit. The front door. We looked at each other. Then we looked at the front entrance, the double glass doors I'd walked through 19 hours ago with Louise's hand in mine. They had been locked. I'd tried them at hour 3, hour 5, hour 8. Locked every time. The parking lot visible through the glass, my car sitting where I'd parked it, the afternoon sun, and then the darkness, and then the morning light tracking across the asphalt while we sat inside. I walked to the front doors and pushed. They opened. The Miami morning hit me like a wall. Heat, humidity, the sound of traffic on Flagler, a plane overhead banking toward MIA, the smell of asphalt and exhaust and cut grass from the median. The world, the real world, doing what it does on a Thursday morning with no knowledge that a building on this block had spent 19 hours digesting 9 people while 11 others watched. My car was there. Grace's car was there. A row of vehicles in the lot, one for each of us who'd come. The doors were open. We could leave. Behind us, the door to the treatment area was also open. The amber light glowed steady. The pulse continued. 2 open doors, 2 directions. 5 minutes, the radio said. The woman in workout clothes picked up her bag and walked outside. She didn't run. She walked to her car, she got in, and she drove away. I watched her go. She didn't look back. I understood. Grace tore the pages from the legal pad. The full record, every note, every timeline, every anomaly, every number from every clinic call. She folded them and put them in her jacket pocket. Then she did something I didn't expect. She walked back to the treatment door. She stood at the threshold and looked down the hallway to where Robert sat in his room, visible through the open door, still and calm under white light inside a building that was warm and amber and alive around him. "Robert," she said. Clear, loud. Her courtroom voice, the one that had probably won cases and silenced opposing counsel and held a room. He turned his head, faster than before, smoother, almost right. "I'm going to come back for you," she said. "I'm going to walk out of this building, and I'm going to find someone who understands what's happening here, and I'm going to come back and get you out. Do you understand?" He looked at her. The 2-second gap. "I'll be here, Grace." She nodded once, turned around, walked through the lobby, walked out the front door into the sunlight, got in her car. She sat in the driver's seat for about 30 seconds, with her hands on the wheel and her head down. Then she started the engine and pulled out of the lot. Priya was already outside. She'd been waiting by the door, watching both directions, the parking lot and the hallway, with the same surgical focus she'd maintained for 19 hours. When Grace drove away, Priya looked at me. "You need to go," she said. "I know." "Your daughter isn't in that room." I know that." "Then walk." I was standing in the lobby, equidistant from both doors. I could feel the front door's heat on my face and the treatment door's warmth on my back. The radio was playing something I don't remember what, something soft, something with strings, and the floor was pulsing. And the automated voice said, "2 minutes remaining. We thank you for visiting Lakeview. Your loved ones are in our care." In our care. My daughter had a rash that didn't blanch when I pressed glass to it. My daughter had a fever of 103. I brought her to a building because buildings where you bring sick children are supposed to make them better. That's the contract. That's the deal. The deal was broken somewhere in the last 19 hours, and I didn't know when, and I didn't know by whom. And the thing in the exam room with my daughter's face was not the answer. But the question was still mine. My phone is at 2%. I'm going to say what I need to say. There are 14 clinics in the Greater Metro Community Health Alliance. We confirmed that at least 7 of them are experiencing the same event. Same timeline, same progression, same locked doors, same hallway transformation, same patient integration, same choice offered to families in the lobby. If you're in a waiting room right now, any waiting room, any clinic, anywhere, and your person hasn't come back, and the door is locked, and the hallway looks wrong, I need you to hear this. Do not go in when the door opens. The door opening is not rescue. It's selection. The building is offering you a version of the person you brought in, and that version will look right and sound right and feel right, and it will answer your questions, and it will know the details, and it will say, "Can we go home?" And you will want to stay. You will want to stay more than you've ever wanted anything. Walk out the front door. Walk out and document what happened, and find Grace Okonkwo, who has the complete record, who is probably already driving to the nearest police station or newsroom or federal building with a stack of handwritten pages that prove this happened at scale. I don't know what the clinics are. I don't know what the hallways are becoming. I don't know what integrated means. I don't know if the people behind those doors are alive in any way that matters, or if they were dead by hour 1 and everything since has been display. I don't know. And the not knowing is the part that will follow me home and sit on my chest tonight and every night. Howard is in there with Dolores, singing boleros. He made his choice, and I won't judge it. Marcus is in there with his mother. He's 15 years old, and his mother has lupus, and he's braver than I am, and I will not judge him either. The radio said, 1 minute. I'm walking to my car. I'm walking out the front door into the heat and the noise and the world. My daughter is in the building, and I'm leaving the building. I'm leaving. I made it to the car. I sat in the driver's seat, and I did not start the engine for a long time. I watched the clinic through the windshield. It looks normal from outside. Single-story, beige stucco. The Lakeview Urgent Care sign in blue and green. The landscaped median with its sad palm tree. The handicap parking spaces with their faded blue paint. A building. An ordinary building on an ordinary block in an ordinary city. The front doors closed on their own. Slowly, the way automatic doors close when the sensor stops detecting motion. The lobby was no longer visible through the glass. The lights inside had gone to that amber tone, the one the hallway had, and the glass reflected the parking lot instead of showing the interior. The building had sealed. My phone died 12 seconds after I stopped recording. Everything I've told you was saved in fragments across 9 audio files, and I've stitched them together in order. And this last part I'm recording now, on Priya's phone, from her car, in a parking lot 3 blocks away where we've been sitting for 40 minutes, waiting for someone to tell us what to do. No one has told us what to do. No one is coming. Here is what I know. My daughter went into a building. The building changed. The building offered me something that looked like her. I refused it. I left. I am alive and I am free, and I am sitting in a parking lot in Miami on a Thursday morning with the sun on my face and the sound of a city that doesn't know what's inside its clinics. And my daughter is in one of them. And I chose the door that led away from her. I need you to understand that I am not okay. I need you to understand that being right and being okay are not the same thing. If you're hearing this, check the clinics in your city. Not the hospitals, the clinics. The urgent cares, the walk-in networks, the community health systems, the small places, the places that take 9 people on a Wednesday afternoon, and no one notices because 9 people is a normal afternoon. Check the hallways, check the doors. And if they open for you, if a warm voice tells you your loved one is resting comfortably and you can see them now, I need you to remember what I'm about to say. That is not your person. Walk out. Please, walk out.